Hello, my name is Chris Connors from CustomWoodCarvings.com, and today we're going to learn how to chainsaw carve a red-tailed hawk. And we're going to use this stump right here. So the first thing we start with is a sketch, and to do a carving you want to have two viewpoints. So here I have a profile view from the side, and then I have one from the front or from the back. Either one. So a frontal and a profile, and you'll do well. So what I've done here is I've used graph paper, and I've drawn this to a 2-foot wide stump and an 8-foot tall stump, and go ahead and draw it in. What I like about a sketch is you get to work out all your problems on paper first and figure out what looks good and what doesn't look good. And then once you've got your lines drawn in, it makes the rest of it so easy to do, because now you just have to transfer those lines to your wood. Now, along with making the sketch, to make the sketch, I first go onto Google or a book and collect a bunch of images of the animal that I'm working on. And here's a few different shots, and what I'm looking at here is I want to get a nice profile shot. I also want to get a nice frontal shot of the head and some detail shots. I also want to get details in this instance. I want to see what the pattern of the feathers are doing. You know, what are the tail feathers doing? Some close-ups of the talons, those kinds of things. So as long as I have all those photos, I can go ahead and create a sketch, and then using both of these I can create the carving. The first saw I'm going to start with is just a regular, it has a regular bar on it. This is a 20-inch bar. This happens to be a 372 XP Husqvarna. So I'm going to use this to remove all the big chunks first. Then I'm going to move on to a setup with a carving bar on it. This is a quarter tip carving bar. It has the radius of a quarter, and it's running quarter pitch chain, and which that requires a quarter pitch sprocket. And you can order these online at Bailey's. If you Google Bailey's chainsaws or something like that, you can order one of these. They're about close to $100 for a carving bar. That's just the bar, that's not the chain or the sprocket. And when you order a carving bar, you just tell Bailey's what kind of chainsaw you have, and they'll tell you what kind of bar you need that will fit that saw. This happens to be a Stihl 200, and this is a 14-inch carving bar. I'm ready to start cutting, but first I got to decide how I'm going to position the bird. So in terms of this property, there's a driveway over there, there's a house over here, so those are all factors in how I want to position it. So I talked to the customer, and the customer wants the bird looking at the driveway, and that means the back, which has all the exciting tail feathers and everything, will be facing the house. The part that's not very exciting is just the belly, and that'll be facing the road, which nobody cares about that much. So all the exciting parts, driveway, house, can be seen. Now I got to look at the wood and see if that's possible. Are there any defects, any knots, any weird things in the wood that would prevent that from happening? The next step is to remove the bark. I'm working with a willow tree today, and so I want to remove the bark. This actually is coming off by hand quite well. Other times you just need to use your chainsaw and just skim across and remove all that bark. Here's a little tip when you're removing the bark. It's best not to do this. if you already have a clean cut face, you want to be positioning your bar so that the tip of the bar is coming into the clean wood, not coming into the bark. If it goes into the bark, it's taking all the dirt and ripping it through and dulling your chain down. So always have that tip ripping through clean wood, and you'll preserve the sharpness. So I've drawn my sketch to scale. Each one of these horizontal lines represents a foot. So it's 1 to about 3 foot tall. And so now that the bark is off, I've taken a lumber crayon and measured those out. So up here is a foot mark, the top of the bird, and then 1, 2, 3 feet. And I've also drawn the profile of the bird. So I got the head going, the shoulders, and this is the back of the bird, so I've drawn out the profile of the wings coming down to the tail. Now to do that, I just used my sketch here. I could tell from my lines that it's about 7 inches over this way and 7 inches over this way. So I just go ahead and measure that out. I know that from the top down to here is about 5 inches. And same thing, from here to here is about 5 inches. And then the beak sticks out a couple more inches. So it takes out all the guesswork. I can just measure right off of my sketch here and draw it on the log. Now I'm going to take my regular bar and go ahead and remove the negative chunks. I don't need this in here. This and this I'll remove, and up on top I'll remove all of that. Alright, so here you can see the back profile has been cut out. I have not cut right on my lines. I've given myself maybe like a 1/2 inch to 1 inch of thickness there, and I'll whittle it down. Okay, now that we've finished cutting out this profile, we're going to move to this profile, and I've drawn in you know, this is about 6 inches wide, this is about 5 inches tall, and then I just drew this slant out, drew this slant in. And one thing to pay attention to is right at the ankle here, straight up from the ankle is about that left eye. So you want to make sure you're positioning that underneath there so that it looks like it's really standing up right. And here's what it looks like on the log. Here's my head up in here, and I've drawn that line coming down, and then this is going to be curving around right here, and here's the ankle, and then I'll just slope that out for the rock. As you keep carving, you want to keep drawing in this vertical line here. Otherwise it can get crooked on you. The carving will get crooked. So it'll help you make it look like it's believable. Alright, now it's time to block out let's refine the head a little bit. Here's my center line on my head. And here's the end of the beak. I've measured out, I've drawn a line. I know that the end of the beak is right here, so I can drop that. Once I have the end, now I know that it comes to a point, right? The head is round and it comes forward to a point. So that's totally what I don't have right now. That's why it looks goofy. So we're going to go ahead and round the back of the head and then bring it to a point here, like a teardrop shape, just to rough it out. Alright, notice how it's all blocky looking now? Let's go ahead and start rounding things out. I'm going to take my carving bar, and I know that this is the back, and the back should basically be all rounded. So any of these corners here, I'm just going to start shaving them off and rounding them forward. Same thing on this side. So now you can see this is starting to round out on the back. Quite nice. And as you're doing that, you want to keep checking your reference photos and your drawings to make sure that the lines are looking accurate. One thing you want to pay attention to are the shoulders right here. You want to, it's the top of the wings have kind of a shoulder. So you want to give this kind of a severe angle here. I marked it about 4 inches here and here, and just boop, came in nice and sharp, and then went straight and curved. So you're getting a little bit of a feeling of shoulders right in here. Now looking at this photo here, you can see how the breast here, there's this kind of round oval shape going on right in here. And so I drew that onto the front of the bird. So here I started with the legs, draw them a little thick, curve in, and then thick again on both sides. And then from here, they get overlapped with this oval shape that comes up. And it just kind of fades out when it gets up to the neck. Okay, so you draw that in, and that kind of helps you visualize where you're gonna, how the wings are gonna fit in. We're gonna just curve this back into that line. Alright, so we rounded this out right in here. We did some kind of poofy roundness on the leg and then tapered it out. Same thing, fat up on top, thin it out on the bottom. Now let's move over and draw the profile of the wing. Now I've looked at my sketch and carefully drawn in this line right here for that wing. I'm going to come straight in. And how far down should I cut? Well, this is where the breast comes over and will meet up with that, and that's where the two sides will balance each other out. So I'm going to cut in here and then keep bending this chest around until the two meet. Alright, so we've carved this back, cut this line in, and now we can see this sticks out way too far. So now what we have to do is just kind of curve this back in now. So we're going to get rid of this sharp edge here. We're going to round it back towards the front here, and then it will look natural.